outdoors, etc. The specific vision for the boulevard from the comp plan really focused on maintaining the character of the town, limiting franchise architecture on the corridor, not necessarily franchise businesses, but the architecture of them. And then also looking at public improvement opportunities, parking, open space, landscaping, etc. So these are kind of some of the main points from the town's vision from the comprehensive plan for the town as a whole, but also for the boulevard. So what is the architectural vision? We talk about design and those types of things. Basically, this was established, as you see here, and regulated by Article 21 of the Land Use Code. There are 5 primary design criteria: livability, visual impact, vegetation, mobility, and views. All these things were important to the future architectural design of buildings in Blowing Rock. There's limited visual examples in the plan, as you see, or in the ordinance, I'm sorry. Here on the right, you can see 2 of the existing buildings in Blowing Rock. These kind of have set the vision or the mold for what new construction should look like or be similar to in the community. But the overall intent is to protect the future character and the quality of the character and design in the town. What is currently required? This is just a summary. Minimum setback out on 321 is 20 feet, maximum height 50 feet. There are specific building materials and colors that are allowed. There's no more than 2 primary materials allowed for the facade and no more than 3 colors. And you can see here just an example on the right of a recent development. At least 30% windows and doors, roof pitch 6 to 12. Downtown versus Valley Boulevard, very little difference with the design regulations. There's some minor differences such as roof pitch. You can have flat roofs in the downtown area. So this is a really interesting slide. Development activity. So the commercial design standards that I just went over with you were put in place back in 1997. Since 1997, there have been 8 new construction projects represented by the stars on the slide. And there have been 22 renovation projects since '97. And right now, Bridget's going to pass out some clickers because like I said, we want to get your feedback. And so what we're going to do, we're actually going to go through each one of these 8 new construction projects. We want to get your feedback on how consistent you think this is with the town's character, whether you think it's very consistent, somewhat consistent, not consistent at all. And I'll give Bridget time to pass those around. So some of you may find this surprising. Since 1997, there's only been 8 new construction projects, but there have been quite a few renovations, as you can see on the map there. Does everyone have a clicker? Go ahead and click the buttons just to kind of, if you see a green light or lights flash, that means it's working. Make sure you have a working clicker. And you don't have to get too familiar with it because your only options are going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4. So when we get to that point in the presentation, you'll select one of those 4 answers. So does everybody have a clicker? Feel like it's working? All right. So we're going to take a look at new construction on Valley Boulevard 321 since 1997. Here are the 8 new construction projects, and we're going to go through each one and get your feedback. So here's the first one. We'll start at the southern end, Blowing Rock Furniture Gallery. So as you take a look at this building, thinking about the future character of the town, I'm going to click, and you should be able to start clicking your answer here. Do you feel that that building, that development is very consistent, inconsistent, or very inconsistent? So go ahead and start clicking. This timer here, I'm going to go ahead and click this. You'll have 10 seconds to make your decision. Once that counts down, you're done. I'll give you a little more time next time. All right, so let's see what everybody said. Okay. Okay. So that's an interesting response there. Do we have anybody who said very inconsistent that would like to share? You don't have to. But we want to get your feedback. See that there's quite a bit of you that thought it was consistent, but maybe not very consistent. So anybody want to share why it's not consistent?
Are the orange columns still, is that a current picture?
It's a current picture, and I don't know that they're orange, but it probably looks really bad in that picture. I mean, it might be the screen. I think it's more supposed to be a wood color. Okay.
It doesn't meet the criteria that you put up earlier.
Okay.
Of the criteria is taller,
Right.
and it's out of, to us, it's very, very large and out of place.
Okay. I don't think it's taller than 50 feet, but we can check it out.
It's taller
It is taller than 50 feet?
I
Okay.
don't know, it's taller than anything else.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's go on to the next one. So the next one, if anybody likes steak, you might have eaten here before. And I'll go ahead and click on to the next slide. Do you feel that this development, feel free to start clicking. I'll wait a few minutes before I hit the countdown timer here. So I'll go ahead and hit that. Give you a few seconds here. Just clicking down. I think you can change your vote if you're really not sure about it. Okay. So we got a lot of folks that are staying with the consistent. It's real similar to the last one. Okay. Anybody want to share anything specific about that particular building, good or bad?
Like parking on the side, not in front.
Okay.
And it's corporate.
Okay.
Wasn't it a different color originally and then conformed to the town? I don't ever remember initially it being that color. It was more their corporate color.
It was.
So yeah, Kevin's planning director and said it was a different color.
It
Yeah.
had a different color roof and had different color siding. I think it had a green roof.
Yeah, I think green's their corporate color. Yeah.
Changed.
Yeah, that is not consistent with what the chain is nationwide.
Mhm.
And so they have made a very specific change for Blowing Rock.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Okay.
only 3 other cities in the United States that they've done that for.
Wow.
And so one of them is Blowing Rock.
How about that? Okay, well, let's move on to the next one. New River Falls condos, we're just moving north on the corridor here with all the new construction projects. Go ahead and let you start voting on that one. Sorry we didn't have a better picture of that one, so it'd be interesting to see how that one turns out. Okay. All right. Seems to be a lot of folks like consistent. We'll keep moving. We'll keep moving. United Community Bank. This one's just a little bit further down. Everybody have a chance to look at that, be familiar with it. Okay, so we had, definitely moved into a more higher degree of, people liking that. Tell us a little bit more about what you like about that particular building and its design. Anybody?
It's the mountainy exterior.
The exterior of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
the percentage of stone to wood on the outside of that building makes it real attractive.
Okay. The scale? Heard somebody say scale? Okay. And we're taking notes, even if they don't get up on here. We've got taking notes over here. Any other things you liked about it? There were some people that didn't like it. It's okay to say you didn't like it. Anybody has something they want to point out that they didn't like? All right. Let's move on to the fire station. Take a look at that. I'm sure we'll have a lot of interesting opinions about that. So we'll move on now that everybody has taken a look at it. If you haven't seen it before, there it is. Hopefully they have not visited your house or place of business. So how do you feel about that structure? Okay, survey says. Okay. So, give us some feedback. What do people like about that structure? Anybody?
I like the stone.
The stone? Anybody else? Something that you like about it?
The massing changes.
Okay,
It's not just a consistent massing.
gotcha. You got time to write all that down? Okay, go ahead. Anybody else? Sure, whoever.
They've got too many lights on at night.
Okay, too many lights on at night. Are they lights that point downward, or do they point upward, or
There are
what's?
both the parking lot lights and there are the lights upstairs of the building.
Oh, actually in the building, inside the building. Okay. All right, we had another.
Scale proximity to the street.
You like that or don't like it? You don't like that? Okay. All right. We'll get back to you. All right, go ahead.
I think it doesn't look like the average firehouse, certainly, but it's like, I don't think they missed any kind of exterior surface. There's got to be half a dozen of them on there, and I'm just wondering if they, almost looks like they're out testing exterior surfaces.
Okay.
Colors. They didn't miss anything.
Okay. Was there somebody else back here that had one? Sure, go ahead.
It needs some landscaping badly.
Landscaping.
Trees mostly.
Okay.
It's too light.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that building before we move ahead? All right, well, we heard landscaping for the first time. That's good to, okay, we'll move ahead. All right, Samaritan's Purse. It's kind of up on the hill there. You may or may not notice that when you're driving by. Everybody take a look at that, get familiar with it in case you're not. And tell us what you think. All right, so let us know about that one. What makes that building and setting consistent with the character of the town?
It sets back.
Okay,
It's not there.
all right, you like the setback. Gotcha.
Architectural design.
The design, architecture. Anybody else, something positive that you like about it? The landscaping, okay? Few inconsistencies up there. Anybody, anything particular you'd like to point out that you absolutely don't like about that building?
Driving,
The driveway, okay?
can't get up in the winter.
That's just part about being in the mountains. All right, let's move on. So we've got the Awha Realty. Did I pronounce that correctly? Take a look at that, and if you're familiar with that, that was actually in the ordinance as an example. So let's see what people think about the Realty building there. All right, survey says, here we go. All right. Okay, well, that's good because that's one of the only examples in your ordinance. All right. And this is probably the most recent, I think, of the new construction projects, the Apsky Visitor Center. I think everybody's had a chance to look at that. So open up the polls.
Question,
Sure.
is the orange color one of the three colors that was approved by the town for the vision?
I don't know.
The town maintains a color palette for primary colors, and I'll let Kevin.
It was presented as you see it, is how it's presented to planning board and council. They approve specific colors. And it's consistent with what they do at Ski.
Well, let's talk about it. What are some things you liked about that building? Anybody?
It's iconic.
Iconic? Okay. I didn't hear that.
It's iconic.
Lots of glass?
They had a lot of discussion about that, if it's actually doing that. But
Okay.
I think most people thought it was iconic due to the history of Ski Mountain and its place here in our community, and that's their color palette.
Okay. So, any negatives? Anything someone didn't just hated about the building?
Well, it's a Swiss chalet in Blowing Rock, which is, doesn't match all the things, but it actually matches, which says the history. It's part of
Yeah.
it.
Okay. All right. So, taken as a whole, looking at all these 8 construction projects, so it's not a lot. Do you feel, that the town's vision is being achieved through the design standards and the new construction that you see on 321? And I know there's probably going to be a lot of maybes or whatever, but try to give us your best shot at yes or no.
Go through what the construction is, what's under construction now. Oh.
Yeah, the pictures we just looked at, taken as a whole, so we kind of talked about them individually, but looking at all 8 together, do you feel like the town's vision is being achieved? Do you feel that something needs to be changed? Those buildings are, not what you were expecting to see in Blowing Rock when you moved here. I think individually, there seemed to be a lot of thoughts that there was some consistency with the town's vision by the results of at least the folks here in this room. But taken as a whole, do you feel that way about it? How do you feel about it? A few more seconds here to let us know. Well, that's good. So that's good to know. The 10% that said no, does anybody want to step out there and have something specific you feel like really needs to be changed and looked at closer? Consistency in how the I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in how the guidelines are applied. Is that what you're inferring, or what?
And how we look at we're trying to maintain.
Okay.
Maintain our village character.
So you think there needs to be more consistency in how things are designed and what they look like? Is that what I'm? Okay.
Here's colors. Yes.
Okay.
So standards
Is
is,
something substantially inconsistent in what we've already looked at?
Look at the orange in the last piece. Looks like Howard Johnson's.
That's the most iconic thing of any of the things we were shown. That has been around longer. That's been here 112 years to Appalachian Ski Mountain. That has been around longer than the fire station, than any of the other things that they showed us. Yeah, nobody likes orange and brown. And they had to get a variance, as I recall, from the town to have that old-timey snow blower or whatever, the things, I don't know what the name of it is. But we had to have that. Oh my God, if that's not the most charming thing, are you kidding me? We
Yeah.
can't have a cookie cutter environment here. We can't have it. We don't have it where you and I live. We live on the same street. We can't have that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about, are there any other things related to that you felt need to be improved? Looking at all the different construction projects, are there any other specific things that should be looked at?
The
Sure.
scale of Blowing Rock furniture is way out, way inconsistent.
In scale, so
scale.
too
we
big,
put
too
it
small?
here.
The scale of blowing rock furniture.
That was the original building.
No?
It was
Yeah.
two stories before, wasn't it?
Okay. All right, so scale of that particular, any other, sure.
Just to reiterate what this lady said before, there's a community in the Panhandle in Florida, on the Gulf Coast, and I can't remember the name of it. But I think we have to be careful that we don't swing so far the pendulum that we become what I would call Stepford architecture.
Okay.
Where everything kind of looks alike.
Mm-hmm.
If you go over, with all due respect to Linville Ridge and some of these places, if you got loaded after dinner, you couldn't find your house because they all.
Right, right.
And as far as that furniture place, I was here during that, and I remember the joke of the town when the then commissioners were that, didn't y'all know how to use an architectural ruler here for scale? I think after it was up, most people went, oh my God, it didn't look like that on paper.
Uh-huh.
So I think that there was pretty much a consensus of opinion that it was way over scale for that area.
Okay.
Well, if that were the case, and we all felt that, what would we do? Go and tell them they gotta make the building smaller? I don't think so.
No, yeah, and I think, I mean, you can't go back and change that now, yeah, right. But I think the whole purpose of this exercise is to get your feedback, get your thoughts about what's been done. Do you think it's achieved the vision of the town or not? And I think we're getting some good feedback to take back to the committee to consider. So let's keep moving ahead. So this one will be a little different. We're actually going to look at renovations. So, as you know, if you've renovated a house or any other thing, you run into all sorts of challenges. So when you're trying to apply design guidelines to existing buildings, you run into challenges. So some of those buildings that we'll look at, here's all 22. We're not going to go through every single one of those tonight, just so you know. We're going to hit a few, just to kind of get your general impression about how the guidelines have been applied to renovations. And so we'll go ahead and get started with this particular building at the southern end, A1 Pest Control. Once again, limitations with, you have an existing building. And so let's everybody look at that and get familiar with it. And same question. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay. So, there's a lot of things going on there. It's an existing building, but let's go ahead and hear, anybody have some specific input they want to give?
I'd like to know what the palette of the town is. It didn't look like it fit a palette. The paint colors.
I imagine, I don't know what kind of paint was changed on that building. I think it was brick. It looked brick.
The turquoise door.
Yeah.
Is that in the palette?
They were already that color.
Yeah.
Just the little wood pieces around it, they didn't paint those because those were turquoise at one point.
So paint, we heard paint. What else?
The roof pitch.
The roof pitch. All right, so it's an existing building,
Yeah.
so we're kind of stuck on that one. But that's a good point. Good point. We need to know that. Anybody else?
It looks really plain. I don't know whether there are more flower, and I know they're pushed with, parking.
Right.
They could put flowers closer to the building in pots or something. Just
Okay.
Except for the two that they still have there.
Good point. Anybody else? It's a tough one. It's an existing building. It's tough. Let's go on to this next group of buildings here, the Blowing Rock Urgent Care. These were renovated as well. Just stepping down the hill there. Tell us what you think about that. All right, here we go. See what everybody said. Okay, so I've got a little bit more favorable remarks. Anybody want to point out pros and cons on this one? What you think about it? Doesn't matter what I think about it. What do you think about it? No comments?
It's probably the pitch of the roof. I mean, that's blatant, the difference in the pitch of the roof.
Okay,
Simple.
sure.
I have a question. Is there any particular reason that you don't put the picture back up when you ask us that question, so we can be looking at it when you ask?
Well, I can go back to it after you voted.
Okay.
The way the software is set up, it's like once I click and open up the poll, and I can go back and you can look at it after you vote, but I'll give you a little bit more time. How about that? So we'll look at this one. This is the subway. It was a renovation as well. Everybody look, I'll give you a little bit longer to look at it. How about that? All right. Okay. So tell us what you think.
There a sign ordinance? I didn't, you said that earlier, I was spaced out into some of the world.
There is a sign ordinance, but you want to answer?
There is a sign.
Thanks, Kevin.
You're welcome. And that sign meets the ordinance. Both signs.
All right. Okay. Nobody said very inconsistent, so great. What are some of the strong points or negative points that you want to make sure the committee?
Where they had the columns, where they put the stone at the bottom and the column above brought the entryway out from that building, added a more consistent layer.
Got it.
And I don't know if the audience wants any of the history behind it, but on that one, there was a metal construction building attached to it, and then they tore that portion off when Subway was planning to go in, and they retrofitted that building to make it work. It's not ideal, but it closely matches as much. They try to make it work as well as they could, given the size of the constraint.
Anybody else? Yes.
I think as with the steakhouse, when you're dealing with national chains like that.
Right.
Just getting them to, I think both of them have probably met this town more than halfway. And it doesn't look like any other subway anywhere else.
Right.
So,
Right.
I mean, I think that dealing with national chains is both a challenge, but I think the town has probably come out of it plus end of it.
Oh yeah. Could have been much different.
In response to the sign question, the yellow on the sign is a few shades lighter than the standard Subway yellow. So we work with them to get to that point.
How about that?
Most of them want to use their brand, and we work with them as they apply to mute it in some way if we can.
Right.
Outback, they volunteered to do it. We didn't ask them to. They just came forward and said, "Well, we want to change our color palette of the building and the roofing." So they volunteered.
Wow. You scared them before they even got here. All right, Sunny Rock. This is a renovation of what I believe might have been a Pizza Hut. Is that right? So I give everybody a chance to kind of look that over. Come on in. They're open. Sunny Rock. All right. Everybody had a chance to take a look at that and think about it, where it's located. Tell us what you think. Was somebody wagering bets about what people are going to select back there? Oh, wow. Okay. Great. Everybody seems to really like Sunny Rock. That's great. Is it the food or the building? Which one? Okay. All right. Okay. What's that? So what do you like about it? So the food really outweighed this one. You don't care what it looks like.
Think about it. It's really simple. You have stone on the bottom, you have wood on the top, and you have a differential
rounding.
pitch of wood. It's really
So really simple design.
And it's a new building, it's
simple
not a
reno-
two-story building. It doesn't have two-story columns, it's real simple.
Okay. Good feedback. So remember, the committee's going to be looking at all this input. So tell us what you think. Don't hold back. All right. I know they have good food, but all right. Okay. My Mountain Home. This is also a renovation. Take a look at that. Think about it. And of course, these colors are obviously going to be a little bit different. The screen's going to interpret this. Things a little different, but hopefully it's close. Okay, everybody had a look at that. Same question. All right, so everybody place their bets on this one? Okay. Okay. So, what did you like about that? Anybody?
It's different
Okay.
than anything else.
Part of the charm,
Part of charm, what did you say?
color palette.
Color palette? Okay. Negatives? Got a few inconsistents up there. Nobody want to share? That's the great thing about these clickers, right? You can say whatever you want to say and you don't have to,
How many people are voting?
How many people voted?
How many people are voting?
In the 40s, it looks like. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what that, I forgot, it shows up over there. So it's in the 40s, so depending on how hard, if you didn't press it correct.
I just want
Yeah.
a general idea. I want to have your ballpark.
Yeah, we're in the 40s, yeah. So the Allen Tate Real Estate, I'm not sure it was always known as that. I think it was was it? So does everybody know where this is? It's on the map. Yeah, way up. Okay. All right, so take a look at that and open the polls here. Okay. So we missed a couple votes on that one, but all right. Okay. What do you like about it? Anybody want to share what they like about it?
I like them keeping the parking to the side.
Okay. Parking to the side. Got it.
As a home look. A
Okay.
house look.
Color scheme.
All right.
Color scheme's good.
Color scheme. All right. Was there somebody else that said
The beams, I like
the rustic beams? Okay. All right. So now we're going to move into just some examples we want to show you. These are some examples of buildings from other places that probably don't meet the guidelines for the town, but we met with the committee, want to get your feedback on whether or not you think these are maybe some things that you would like to see or not. We'll just go through them. This first example here is a larger building. What's not right with it, as far as the code is concerned, it has significant portions of the roof that are flat. The materials maybe don't quite line up exactly. What do you think about? What's your reaction about this building? Thinking about blowing rock in the context here, is this something that would dishearten you to see on 321, or is it something that you think would be good?
What's the point of the 3-story clock?
No idea. No idea. Just a decorative feature, sure.
When those trees grow, you're not going to be able to see the dang clock anyway.
Good point.
Good point. Any reactions to this building? We're not going to do a poll on these. I just want to. Feels sprawling? Okay. So it's kind of like that scale. I heard some people talk about the blowing rock furniture scale. I guess this is maybe some people feel similar. What about the roof? Think it's okay to have a flat roof? Don't like that? Don't
It's
care?
not really apparent from that angle.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Good point.
The storefront look of the flat roof can be attractive
Mm-hmm.
in the
Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Is 321, so obviously downtown you have flat roofs and the storefront look. Is that kind of a look something that you think would be okay for 321? See, some heads say yes.
If it's all flat, it
It's
seems
like
a
a
little.
bank or something, is it? Is it a bank?
Yes, it's
Yes, that's a bank. Yeah. And we'll show you some more.
It seems a little commercial with all flat roof, but breaking it up with the dormers, I like. I think that gives it enough of a variance to
Okay.
change the scale.
Do you think that flat roofs on one-story buildings would be inappropriate as opposed to having them on two-story buildings?
Okay. Make sure our note takers, Bridget's writing away. I'm glad you're doing that part because my handwriting is not that great. Here's another example of a large commercial structure. Not sure there may be some places, some land that could be assembled for something like that in Blowing Rock. Does that scare you? Are there things? Is there anything? Okay, somebody's raising their hand. Go ahead.
I know it's for parking in the back.
Kind of looks cheap. Okay. Somebody over here had.
Right.
Okay. Somebody else had a comment over here, maybe? Color. Okay.
How does the grid like solar panels?
Solar panels? I don't know. That's something we didn't really contemplate. Anybody have any?
No planning.
The solar panels on this building. You don't like that, or you just don't care? Hide them? Hide them. All right. Well, let's look at some other examples. Here's another example of a building that would not be allowed on 321 because it's all flat roof. I saw someone shaking head, no way. What about over here? Too much glass. All right. Too modern. Too modern. Okay. Anything else? All right. Anybody like it? No? Couple like it out there? Okay.
I know somebody likes it.
All right. Another example, this building has more than 3 primary materials. It's a flat roof, does not meet your code. Somebody said build it. Anybody else?
There's a corporate look to it.
Corporate look to it? Okay.
The lighting.
The lighting,
Yeah,
the gooseneck?
You see that terrestrial of some sort.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any comments, thoughts about it?
Different colors.
Different colors, okay?
Building's okay.
Building's okay?
I think what you've got going on positive there is if you want a flat roof, it needs to be a smaller building, which you have there. And you have to offset that by the softness of the landscaping.
Okay.
It looks like it's lost in Tweetsy.
What's your comment?
Probably put the utilities up there.
I don't know, maybe, perhaps. Yeah.
That's how they're hiding it.
All right, let's look at a couple more. Well, something different. What's the reaction to this? I'm seeing a lot of no's.
Shopping center.
All right, hang on a second. Go ahead.
That's in the shopping center in Phoenix somewhere.
Okay. You might be close. Anybody else? I believe that is from Arizona, yeah.
That much concrete, a lot of concrete.
A lot of concrete.
Yeah.
Because we have too much rain and snow.
Okay.
and ice. It's not a good floor material.
Okay,
Exterior.
gotcha. Anybody else? Okay, we'll move on to another example of something that would not be allowed here. All right, hang on a second. Anybody like this? No? Okay, all right.
Belongs in Boone.
It belongs in Boone. Okay. All right, for any committee members, you heard that belongs in Boone. All right. Okay, site design and landscaping. So we're going to change topics here, move a little quicker here. Buildings, so some of the site design standards in the current ordinance require buildings to be oriented to the street, parking in the side or rear. Now granted, you do have buildings, as we looked at, that don't have parking in the rear. Most of those were already there, existing. Street landscaping, tree preservation, you can see these are all the things that are looked at when a site plan comes into the town. These are some of the primary things that are considered. So how does that look out in the real world going back out? So here's an example of the community bank. You can see that it's, has parking on the sides, landscaping in the front,
It's close to the road.
close to the road. Go on to another example. This one was the big winner for the food and the simplicity of the building design. But you can see here it orients to the street, parking's on the sides. So you do have some grass area and some landscaping in front of the building. This one I think is one of the most interesting ones. So you've got landscaping in the front, heavily landscaped along the parking lot, and then I love this shot here. I always thought this one was really, really interesting, how that kind of, any thoughts about that? And you can comment on any of these. We just wanted to show you, sure.
I didn't notice on your list anything about stormwater retention. I didn't see anything about that. So you
Yeah.
have all that asphalt's gonna run off and goes right into headwaters of the river.
Were they required to? Is it underground?
No,
Or small?
I think it's off to the,
There's a dry pond behind the building.
okay,
Well, that was built in
yeah. Probably not, maybe not sufficient for today's standards, maybe.
So anything
That's a good point.
pre-94 would have been built without.
There's projects built with stormwater detention prior to that.
Oh, really?
We can talk about stormwater. Are there any specific things that you think we should be looking at as far as stormwater, site design?
Just, make sure you include best management practices in the
Right.
design on that stuff,
Gotcha.
right?
Mhm.
Whether it's a stormwater retention basin, whether it's, you name it, there's
Right.
a dozen things to look.
Right.
Soils,
Start that with like the 1-inch patch,
Yeah.
stormwater.
And, and this is in a watershed area. It's got some extra additional rules overlaid on this area anyway, but there may be some additional things to look at potentially.
Our stormwater does not address water quality. It addresses detention and retention. You can either option, but a lot of times it's detention because of the site constraints. Most things are going to be underground in a series of pipes with detention chambers. Some is above ground, and in the case of this one, is a pit and designed to meet those standards. But we really don't have anything for water quality. Now, it's Boone's drinking water. It's not ours, but we still, that would be something to consider, is looking at stormwater and how we can make steps towards water quality.
And so this part of the whole work is one of the very key inherent water bodies and the headwaters of the new river.
I believe it's mercury.
There's also habitat degradation and methods, invertebrate.
Wait, say that again, for the few sections of the river that's impaired?
Yes, there's 7 water bodies in the new headwaters in North Carolina that are impaired, which is almost none compared to other rivers in the state. And this one is impaired from its very source up off the Blue Ridge Parkway down to where right about where the Blue Ridge Parkway is.
Other rivers have none and we have 7?
No, we have 7 is almost none compared to other rivers in the state. And the new river is super healthy.
But you're thinking we can keep that up? As we
I think we
go?
can improve it if we add stormwater
Yeah.
retention like he's talking about, that would improve the water quality and bump it, and get it off the impaired stream slopes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So we've got that note to make sure that's considered. Okay? This is just another example of, this was some existing development, so there really was not a whole lot of room to do streetscaping. There is parking in front of this building. This is just, right around Woodlands area there.
I think another thing, again, we're talking about the river, the focus on the buildings and the street and the relationships with the street ignores the fact that the river's right behind all these buildings.
We've got some slides coming on that. We've got some slides coming. This is another example of where the topography really impacted how the building addresses the street. Here, this is the hotel. You can see the large bank there. And even here you can see how the natural vegetation actually blocks their sign when you look at it. But this definitely has some challenges on this particular site. Then you have the other end of the spectrum down to Village Inn, where you have this like whole woodlands kind of a streetscape. You can't even see the building in some parts of the roadway experience through there. And then, yeah. And I think I heard several folks mention on this particular one, back in the previous slides, how they really like the landscaping in front of the Samaritan's Purse, but not the driveway. We noted that. We'll get them on that. And then this particular slide shows a shallow pond out in front of the ABC store. Nobody knows where that is, right? So we had sunny, now we got foggy rock. You can see this was an existing structure with parking in front, but you can see they do have some landscaping relief in front of that building along the highway there. And then back again to Glowing Rock Furniture Gallery there. You can see those trees are getting closer to maturity. They're a lot bigger than they were, I guess, when they were planted 15 years ago. Is that about right? Maybe?
Yes.
And then this building has parking on the rear and on the side as well. This particular property, as we discussed earlier, was a renovation. Most of the parking's on the side, but it was really constrained because this was a property that was cut. I'm sure when the widening came through, made it really difficult to find parking anywhere there, I'm sure. And then this building's even constrained further with parking as well. And then, of course, down at the outlet, they obviously have lots more room for landscaping and some really nice street trees there along the highway. And then there's the Realty. Those trees were really small in that picture, I think, from your ordinance. So you can see how they've really come into maturity there. And then the very northern end of the corridor, you have more of a wild kind of a look where there's just wilderness over. This is the actual creek over here. So NCDOT plannings, sure.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
The last item on your list was underground utilities.
Okay.
And my wife commented as we're driving up Sunset, I wonder why they didn't go underground utilities on Sunset.
Cost.
Because of cost.
Money.
Money. It's way too much money. It's well over $8 million to do that.
Yeah.
You're not getting the grant to take care of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's expensive to, especially the more urban and developed the area is, it's hard to go back in and retrofit. It's really expensive to do that. Somewhere out here, probably be a little more, a little easier. It'd still be expensive, but at least you're not digging up, sidewalk and foundations and all those kinds of things. NCDOT plantings along Valley Boulevard. Some of you may or may not be aware there's actually been some plantings. I have to point them out because they're really small. They're not growing, it's going to be a while before these are mature, but someday, I had a friend in one community that was, he told me that was a sorry excuse for a tree, and that we needed to have some bigger ones, but they will grow bigger someday. So I'm just going to point some of these out to you. Once again, you may have not known they were there, but here they are. So when you go out, when you have some daylight tomorrow, take a look. You'll see the trees. DOT hasn't planted them all, but they're certainly working on it. This particular shot here, this gives you a nice view looking north. So what we wanted to do was to give you an example. We got a hold of NCDOT's plans. They do plan to put trees and some landscaping in the median. I just want to show you an example of what that can look like based on what we've seen in the plans anyway. And here's what that could look like. And what we actually did, we went in and added a wall here. One of the things, just wanted to give you an idea of what it could look like, try to bring out some more of the blowing rock character, especially see like along Main Street with the lower knee wall, stone wall, and flowers and landscaping. This is not in DOT's plans. I want to make that clear. This wall is not in DOT's plans. That's something we put in there just to give you some inspiration. And here's what this same scene might look like in the fall. Once again, just to give you kind of an example of what's planned. So other public improvement opportunities in the comprehensive plan. One of the things, Sunset, you're working on that. It's not going to look exactly like this, but it's just implementing the vision of having a gateway into downtown. So it's good to see that you're underway with that. Middle Fort Greenway extension. The gentleman over here talked about what about that. And so this was talked about in the comprehensive plan in 2014. And one of the areas we looked at was how can you bring the Greenway extension on in further down the corridor, and actually have businesses that front the Greenway and take advantage of the potential that brings to the town. Putting in some nice landscaping, maybe some water quality, stormwater drainage features as part of the development. And then here you can actually see the property we're talking about. So you see there's quite a bit of property once you get back behind some of the buildings on 321 if you've never had the opportunity to venture back there and see this, but there's quite a bit of land back there. One of the other opportunities we took a look at, what about these huge banks? Is there something that can be done? We looked at some examples here, and just to give you some inspiration, we took one of these sites and did a photo rendering before and after. Once again, this is not planned. We just wanted to kind of give you an example, taking that knee wall concept and having some landscaping kind of grow up the mountainside there. And then finally, you are moving ahead with a lot of public improvements out there. This is currently under construction, moving ahead with Middle Fort Greenway. So, what other feedback do you want to provide to the committee? Moving ahead, yes, sir.
What's the plan for the Scotchman site?
I don't know. Scotchman site?
Who owns that?
Currently, the DOT owns it.
Okay, Scotchman site. Any other questions, comments? Yes.
I would say the biggest improvement is landscaping.
Landscaping.
You can hide a bunch of problems.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Yes.
As an addendum to that comment, however, are there any projections about what it will cost the town of Blowing Rock and in turn the taxpayers? And landscaping, it's one thing to plant it, it's another thing to maintain it. As we saw with the first set of trees.
Right.
You not only have landscaping and maintenance, but you have irrigation systems that probably should have been in the medians to start with. I mean, I think the reality is we need, in order to pay, we have to pay to play. So what are we talking about?
And the other
Yeah.
problem with the median plantings, and I think they're lovely, is the salt in the winter. They'll kill them.
Yeah.
Because we have to salt the street.
Yeah.
It's, looking at that picture, it's clearly obvious green things will grow.
Right.
And hillside, there's a lot of hillsides covered in Mount Laurel all throughout town.
Right.
Natural.
So Mount Laurel.
I'll say in Terrence Defense, that island there, just as you're coming, mine going to Foley, right there at 321. For the first time ever, it's been maintained, and it looks wonderful. It always looks terrible, but this year it's just real, somebody is.
And tell me again, where is that located? The
Parkway meeting.
Oh, the Parkway meeting. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yes.
This is probably a question really of Kevin.
Sure.
The furniture store that we said was out of scale, for some people to do, is it 50 feet tall? Because your guidelines allow 50 so it's not 50 feet
No.
tall.
No.
I think it's 40.
No, when they were designing it, they were looking at the idea of putting parking in the back and the side instead of, their first design, their first sketch design, was building in the back. But that would force parking in the front, so we worked with them to switch it. And so you've got the building, of course, you come around the corner, it's big, and it's abrupt, and its scale, because it's close, is different. Most of the buildings down through the corridor are one-story buildings, out back. Other than the Holiday Inn, which is down below, everything else is one level for the most part. Fire department, obviously, that's not.
Yeah, I think the topography in that situation definitely contributes to how it feels, because there's nothing else around it that, you know, it just drops off.
I think I'm saying to all of us, if that fits the town's height restriction, if it's 40 feet tall, then it's not in violation of height. It's
Right.
just our sensitivities. And so if we want to change that 50 feet to 20, we need to be talking about that.
Well, that's a good question. You had a comment too? I don't know. I thought you, oh, were you just like saying yes or?
It is definitely a great building there. I live on South Main Street, but it's a great landmark to say Turner's a giant log cabin. I think the bigger problem, and I remember when they built it, but I think the bigger problem with that was the paint palette. If they had even just, it'd be a fortune to repaint because it's like logs. But if it hadn't been so orange,
Yeah.
it would just been a little more subtle. I mean, apart from it really was out of scale. It is a giant log cabin.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and I think, you know, topography plays an issue in the mountains in general, but especially when you have height limits, and it can make things, you know, the way the ground is positioned and shifts and turns can make a difference in how structures
we saw
look.
that with the New Broyville condos that just went up on Chestnut. Originally, when they first put that bank up, everybody went, oh my God. And now if you drive by there, because of the way they terraced that landscaping, you go, that's not so bad, so.
Well, we've kept you about an hour, but I'm happy to take further input. I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure you can send comments into Kevin at the planning office if you have additional comments, but I'm glad that any other feedback tonight. Oh, sure. Yes, sir.
Do you have knowledge, or can you speak to pervious asphalt? Pervious asphalt,
In what, for it, against it?
like at the steakhouse, in that parking lot.
Right.
Do you have any experience with that?
Sure. I mean, I don't know experience in what way, like trying to make something like that better, or you think it's good? I'm not sure what's your question.
The rain goes into the ground through.
You're talking about pervious. What if that was pervious? There's different, you know, materials out there that you could have pervious paving, you know, so that water can seep in. At varying degrees, they're still studying the impacts of it, because a lot of that over time gets dirty, fills in, and then water, it ceases to function. So there's a lot of, I don't know if anybody's come up with a perfect solution for that pervious paving. Now that I got you, I know what you're talking about. So they do have that. There are options out there for that. But you know, it's kind of like with the landscaping and maintaining landscaping, maintaining pervious pavement becomes an issue over time.
I would recommend hydro acid. We used to cover it at the university, and it just, and I've done it several places around the world.
Yeah.
In a freeze-thaw environment, the water gets down in there, it freezes, it expands. Within about one season, it's just dust.
Yeah.
It's clogged, completely clogged.
It's tough.
It's just not good for us.
Somebody's going to come up with something someday maybe that works. Yeah. Yeah, it works pretty good. But it can, yeah. Well, that's a good, make sure that's on the list, yeah.
There are other stormwater practices that can be put
Right.
in place that would serve as similar.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Similar to the Scotsman gas station, the building that used to house the women's clothing store, Doncaster, is that owned by NCDOT? No.
So,
I just heard it's been sold.
So my question would be, does the town have any influence over what can happen to those structures because they're not occupied any longer?
Yes. Before they use them, they'll do some work to the building, as I understand. They'll have to come through a process, most likely. It could be just a zoning permit, but depending on the scale of what they're wanting to do with that property, they may be going through either conditional zoning or conditional use permit.
Did you hear the answer? Did you? Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin, what are they gonna use for parking? The acres.
Which building are we talking about?
Build on that.
Yeah.
Not on 321.
Yeah, that is.
The old Tanner.
No cabinets.
The old Tanner house, not Doncaster. But there is a property to the north of it that can be utilized for some parking. But nothing definitive has been discussed or drawn.
Because the parking that was there is now gone. So-
Yeah, it's gone.
So it'd be the.
There's nothing.
You mean where the nursery was?
Right.
Another comment.
Sure.
The Palm Reader building on the corner of Sunset and 321.
Non-conforming.
And the sign blocks a little bit of the view of the left as you're coming down Sunset.
Okay. The sign blocking the
Sign.
view on Sunset.
Palm Reader sign. Little orange hands up.
All right. Okay, before we get out of hand here, just want to thank everybody for coming. We'll do this exact same meeting on the 29th. We're going to have the exact same slides.
And if you could all pass up your.
Yes, please pass back your, please let us have the clickers back.
Kevin, let me ask you a question. Never mind, I'll ask him. Can you, down that corner, and take my parcel, not currently by parcel, and can you?
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah,
This parcel.
thanks for bringing it up. This is good. We talked about it.
My parcel.